Well. Welcome to Crypto Fire Outpost, Episode 3, Crypto Fire in Action. Okay, so just as a reminder, FIRE stands for Financial Independence Retire Early. It's just reaching a point where you don't have to worry about money anymore. There is a thing called the FIRE movement. You can go ahead and Google it, find out and read articles on it and see what it's all about, how to calculate a FIRE number. I am going to show different types of FIRE. And achieving a FIRE number to me essentially is just what dollar amount that you need to reach in order for that dollar amount to generate enough money for you to live off of, right? But there's different types. And so let's just talk about like lean FIRE, on the extreme end, in my opinion. Lean FIRE, if you see here, lean FIRE refers to a living simple, minimalistic lifestyle during retirement that doesn't leave much room for expenses beyond the absolute essentials, whatever that is, like just room, food, and just that's basically it, right? And let's say I'm going to talk extreme here. Let's say to achieve that you need $20,000. So if you assume a 10% return rate per year, you would need about $200,000 to generate $20,000 a year, right? Approximately, that's the general concept of it. So if I hit $200,000, my FIRE number, then I can lean FIRE. Okay. So on the opposite of that, you have fat FIRE. Fat FIRE, the opposite of lean FIRE, is living a lavish lifestyle. So that's like, hey, I want to have like $10 million where I can go take the family on business class, travel anywhere in the world, anytime I want to go, go to Japan, have Kobe beef every day, just living it up, right? So that's fat FIRE. You drive it. So that's some number that's way up there. Now there's a couple other different FIREs. There's barista FIRE, where they say like you save enough money to quit your day job, but you still take on a side gig kind of to supplement it just to kind of achieve it. Okay, that's like sure. I kind of don't even know why that's there. Coast FIRE is saving and investing enough so you no longer make any contributions. So if you look at the last episode 2, where I talked about the compound calculator, I give examples where you put like $10,000 in just upfront. And for the next 20 years, you don't add anything more to it, and you end up with enough money to retire or to be financially independent, right? So this is the same concept here. It's kind of like Coast FIRE is kind of similar like that. Now, having defined these, I myself have thought of a new category. I would call it Crypto FIRE, hence the channel name. And I throw all this out. All this stuff I throw out. Okay. So what is Crypto FIRE and how is it different than this traditional FIRE, what people categorize? I'm going to share an Excel spreadsheet here. And this spreadsheet shows the concept of Crypto FIRE. So let's say, and let me explain it from behind it. So Crypto FIRE is kind of unique because there is a high annual rate of return because it's dealing with crypto. And as in episode 2, I went over the average CAGR, compound annual growth rate for Bitcoin. And I chose a conservative amount based upon the past 10 years, which is about 40%. And if you look here, let's just say the FIRE number is at $100,000. So that's very low actually for the FIRE community. I mean, it's just like, what? Being able to retire off 100,000 or something, that's ridiculous, right? Let me just demonstrate it right here. So if you have $100,000, I just wanted to demonstrate that if your starting balance is 100,000, you gain 40%, so you make $40,000 at the end of the year. You actually can withdraw money at this point, just to demonstrate how powerful that this concept is. And then so you end up at the end of the year with 110,000, right? Because you actually took out 30,000 to enjoy life. And 30,000 is a lot. I mean, 30,000 you can take the family on a nice vacation, probably twice a year, somewhere international. Fantastic. Okay. So as you can see, that if you were to do this every year continually, right? So I had 110,000, the next year starts, you make 40%, so you make 44,000, you take it out of 30,000, you end up with 124, rinse and repeat. At the end of year 10, you end up with a starting balance of almost 600,000 right here. But what's really cool is if you just look just around 19 years, you end up with over $10 million. And this with you continually taking out $30,000 and enjoying life. Right? And it's just starting off with $100,000. So like, I like this model a lot better. And this is assuming that you're even taking out 30,000. This is making a lot of assumptions. I mean, you may have some good years and you can have some bad years too with Bitcoin. But if you have a very good year and this reaches 80%, then why don't you just take out 60,000 that year? Because the next year maybe only 8% or so, right? And in that case, you wouldn't take anything out, but you already have enough money from the previous year to cover that year. And there's many things that you can play around with this year, and you can continually contribute to this, right? This is just putting one time 100,000 into the starting balance, and so it's kind of like Coast Fire in a way, but it's also but with Coast it doesn't tell you that Coast talks about retiring like 65. It's talking about a long period of time. And that's where you put it in and then don't touch it for that period of time. I'm talking about putting some money in a low amount and being able to withdraw a decent amount every year. And on top of that, you still end up okay in half the time because the CAGR is so great. So if you increase this CAGR, the annual interest here, to a higher amount, obviously it's going to be even more better. But this is just to demonstrate the concept. So that's what I believe in. I don't have time to wait 40 years to retire. I don't want to wait. And so for me, I had to find something or some asset or something that could have a higher CAGR. And before Bitcoin, that was very, very difficult. There was nothing that would return such a high CAGR reliably enough and wasn't super risky, super duper risky, right? You're talking like penny stocks or there's a lot of stuff that's just way too risky to put this type of money into it. I do not think Bitcoin is risky. I will go into another episode. I know people associate risk. I think they're confusing that or have in their minds volatility. And of course, I do believe that that you got to have some risk to have reward. There's no such thing as if everything was that obvious, everybody would be doing it, right? It's like treasury bonds, right? Okay, treasury bonds has very low risk, depending who you talk to, right? But in general public says, yeah, there's very low risk in treasury bonds, but you're only going to get 4 or 5%, right? S&P is probably the next, just moving up the ladder. S&P is 10% on average per year. And the thing though with the S&P stock is the top companies, which people refer to as the FANG stocks, right? Or the top companies like Microsoft, Facebook, Apple. Those companies make up most of the gains for the S&P 500. If you were to remove those top 7 companies, the S&P 500 annual gains would be flat. It would be completely flat, or very close to that, right? You would not have your 10%. So there are a lot of people that just buy FANG stocks, but I'm looking at all these stocks. Like Nvidia has been the latest craze because of AI. Nvidia skyrocketed, and man, it's so high right now, and it's like I already feel like I'm late to the game, right? It's like I don't see Nvidia doubling or tripling anytime soon from where it's at because it's already in the trillions of dollars of market cap, right? It's already one of the highest market cap companies out there. Like how much higher can it go? It's already grew so fast. So to me, it's kind of, and you have all these other risks. There was recently a story about Nvidia being by the Department of Justice or something being investigated for antitrust laws. Blah blah blah. It was in the news. The stock tanked like 400 billion, the biggest loss I think last week in the history of Nvidia, and it turned out to be fake. It turned out that when they contacted Nvidia, said, "Yeah, we didn't get any notifications from the DOJ about this or anything." So I don't know. It's just that's the risk. That's another episode, to delve into. But I think here, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity where you have an asset, Bitcoin, that has proven itself in the past 10 years. I mean, it's been around for 15 years, but I'll look around the past 10 years because the first 5 years, it could be huge gains because it started off at, pennies, and then of course the gains are going to be huge. But after 5 years of being around, so we have another 10 years starting that point. I think it's a fair assumption, 40% CAGR. Not to say that this 40% will go on forever. Over time it may go down, but it's still going to beat out the FANG stocks. It's still going to beat out, in my opinion, it's still going to beat out FANG. It's still going to beat out S&P 500 by at least double, if not a lot more. And nobody truly knows. But I mean, if you look at the last year in episode 2, I think the CAGR for last year was like 121, right? 121%. And so that's why it's pretty insane there. Anyway, I hope this just shows you that there's hope, And this is another strategy. And mainly when you see something like this, it will keep you motivated to try to invest and put in some money, even just getting to 100,000. And then you can start at 10,000 and apply the same formula, right? But I'm just doing something like 100,000, be able to get here and just show you that there is hope, right? There is hope to retire early. I mean, you can even see it right here. Like for most people, even reaching like $2 million, 14 years at 100. But if the CAGR is slightly more, this will achieve it maybe in less than 10 years. And this, again, you're just putting a flat amount and not investing any more at that point. So that's pretty cool, right? So imagine what would happen if you actually put some more in. You start off higher. You continually dollar cost average in. You could end up much quicker to where you're at. So for me, I like this strategy a lot better than what everyone else is preaching there. And I get it. There's a lot of traditional old, I don't know, I call them old money, right? These are the David Ramseys, whoever you listen to, the traditional invest in stocks and do all these. Yeah, just too slow for me, and I don't see enough hope. I feel like I'm in the same place, and I'm going backwards, and it's all about save, 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 and that's what the FIRE movement is about too. You'll see some people complaining, some YouTubers complaining about the FIRE movement is that people get stuck into saving so hard that they live like lean. They're eating instant ramen every day. They're just trying to hit the number. And so they don't enjoy life for like 20 years or so because they're on fire. And by the time they hit the fire number, they've been living that way for decades. And it's just hard for them to get in the habit of spending. They can't even enjoy life because they've like trained themselves subconsciously or consciously to save, 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 right? And they can't even get out of it. I like this model because it's like, hey, like I'm confident I can save. I'm coasting here. At the same time, I can enjoy myself. I have a certain bucket here that I can spend, buy whatever I need to do. I can fluctuate this, but you can say the smart thing. If you want to save it, that's great. Save it too. But I just like this a lot better, and I hope you can see that this is just another avenue. Of course, there's probably going to be questions about this, and like, oh, it's not always going to be the case. It could be, like I said before, it could be better or worse. But if you have a plan here, I do like the idea that if you get a better CAGR, like this goes up instead of 40%, it ends up going to, let's say, 60% one year. Well, for that year, maybe you take out 45,000, right? Just do it reflectively, because you'll always have more being added and compounding in this column over here. And that's the power. And with this CAGR, again, the secret sauce to all this, to me, is finding that asset that actually can return that has very low risk, which is Bitcoin in my opinion. And that's another topic for another episode, as I said, and so we'll go there. All right. Well, thanks for stopping by, and be well.